welcome to the Transatlantic Sports Show. Thank you for coming back. Since our comeback 2 episodes ago, the numbers have gone through the roof from an audio podcast standpoint, and we've been impressed with some of the viewing figures on YouTube as well. So if you are listening to the Transatlantic Sports Show, then please check us out on YouTube and on our socials at TASS_UK. And if you found us on YouTube and you want to listen to us while you're out and about, then please go to your favorite podcast provider and search for the Transatlantic Sports Show. In this episode, we are talking all things Jacksonville Jaguars. Of course, they are London bound this year. That just goes hand in hand with the NFL schedule. But they have 2 home games in London, one at Tottenham and then one at Wembley, which of course is their home from home. So we'll be checking in with Rick Ballou, who is a sideline reporter for the Jags at 1010XL in Jacksonville, and he's also a host on that radio station as well. Some big news involving Travon Walker, the former first overall pick for the Jags back in the 2022 draft. He signed his extension with the team. There's been some comings and goings with the Jags as well. We'll look ahead to the NFL draft, which is just a few weeks away now. Of course, no first round pick for the Jags this year. They traded that away last year so they could get Travis Hunter. Of course, we saw him score his first career touchdown at Wembley Stadium in October last year. So what are the Jags going to do in the draft? They've got 3 third-round picks, including a second-round pick. Could there be some movement? What about Brian Thomas Jr.? We'll discuss all that. And then looking ahead to 2027, whilst they have their stadium redeveloped in Jacksonville and they're playing home games in Orlando, will we get more games over in London? Perhaps one in Dublin? We'll discuss all that and much more with our special guest. And here he comes, Rick Ballou. Delighted to say that joining me now is, Jags reporter, host on 1010XL in Jacksonville, golf enthusiast, and I guess one of the greatest wildlife watchers and hunters. You know, the crocodile hunter, eat your heart out. We've got the gator hunter here. This is Rick Ballou. And Rick, I mean, let's start with that. You know, for the people listening or watching thinking, what is he talking about here? If they're not following you on social media, they need to, not just because of your excellent Jaguars content, but some of the wildlife that you encountered down there in Florida as well.
Yeah, and it's usually in one of 3 places: the golf course, the beach, or when I take my walk here around the hood. There's a black snake who's obviously he's not going anywhere. He must have a good food chain because he's been in that location now for about 3 years. It's actually a good snake. It's a non-venomous snake, so gets rid of the rodents and the bugs and stuff like that. But yeah, it seems like no matter where I go, I run into animals, man, and always have a good time with them.
Absolutely love it. Yeah, you are like that. We've all seen the video. I suppose it's a gift now. You know, there's the guys walking down the fairway in the golf course is the one who just rattles the tail of the alligator, and there's the one that runs away. You're probably the one that just tickles the tail.
No, I don't get that close to them.
Right.
Those bad boys can run, too. Straight line, they can get you. I mean, the key is curving, going left, going right, and then they don't have the ability to do that. But straight line running, they can move. Yes. No question about it. So, yeah, and it's a great time of year. You know, we just had the players here a few weeks ago, and of course, here we are in the week of the Masters. It's going to be just a fantastic week once again in sports with a national championship game in basketball. And, you know, the Jaguars will begin their OTAs on April 20th, get out on the field in mid-May, and then, you know, take it through June. And then, they'll wrap things up in the latter part of June and then get ready for training camp in late July. So, I mean, time's flying by. Before you know it, football's going to be back.
I can't believe it, man. Like you said, OTAs, then you gave the date. And you just think, like, just a few weeks ago, we were at the Super Bowl here at the Transatlantic Sports Show. I was out there in San Francisco, and you think, oh, it's a long time until the start of the NFL season. Like you say, it just goes like that. Suddenly, you have the Super Bowl. A couple of weeks later, the Combine, all the talk starts. We've had the owners' meeting last week. Yeah, and it just ramps up. I cannot believe it. You know, there is no time for rest in the NFL. There is that kind of like down period, isn't there, between June and July, but just before training camp, and then boom, here we go, and away we go from that standpoint. You talked about the golf there, Rick. Are you heading out to Augusta this week?
I am not. I'm not going to go, and I've been before. It's a great event, and I've been covering golf events for quite some time. Golf's the one sport to me where actually the best seat is right in front of the television, because
Yeah.
when you're on a golf course, you can only follow one group and one hole. Of course, you got 18 holes of things that are going on. But I mean, the trip to Augusta is absolutely spectacular. And if anyone ever gets an opportunity, by all means go. But no, I'll be sitting home watching it this year, really enjoying it. Should be a great week.
Nice. I think it was the 01 or 02 Open Championship at Royal Lytham in St Anne's. I remember being there, and it was David Duval who won it. And it was at the time, there were no smartphones at that point, so we were out following Duval, and then you heard whispers of what was happening with Wootton out in the first tee, I think it was, and all these stories to start developing whilst you're out in the course. You don't really know what's going on because you're just following these groups or the pairings, and that was great. What a day that was. I was there for 3 of the 4 days for that and followed David Duval. He was one of my favorite golfers back then at that time as well. I think heading up to the...
David's from Jacksonville.
Is he? Hey, Duval in the name.
David Duval. Yeah, as a matter of fact, you go back and you can look it up. He won on the PGA Tour the same week that his dad won on the senior PGA Tour. I know that name changes quite a bit, but I want to say back then, and it was the late, I think it was 1998. It might have been when he won the Players here. 1999, when he won the Players here, his dad, Bob Duval, also won on the senior PGA Tour. Same week.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, his dad, so I think we're on the fourth tee, and David's walking up, and his dad said, "We're with you, son." And he just looked at his dad and went, "Shut up."
Yeah.
It was a great moment. But hey, this is the Transatlantic Sports Show. We're talking football. We're talking Jacksonville Jaguars. You want to get your golf chat, then, I guess check out Rick Ballou on 1010 XL in Jacksonville. But look, how's life treating you out there in Duval this offseason? It's been a busy week, hasn't it? This past week for the Jags, with Travon Walker extending his stay with Jacksonville. I think that really vindicates their selection when they picked him first overall in the 2022 draft, because naturally there's comparisons between him and Aiden Hutchinson and who was the right player to go first overall. But like I say, I think this vindicates the Jags' decision to take Walker.
Yeah, he gets a second contract. He's coming off an injury-laden year. He hurt the left wrist. It cost him a couple of games. He had surgery on it, and frankly, he wasn't the same when he returned and he played. He also had a knee, and that's the question: is can he stay healthy? When so, he's a complete football player. He's much more than just a get after the quarterback type of player. He's very good against the run. They moved him inside late in the year against Tennessee. And then if you go to the game against Buffalo in the playoffs, 10 times he played the interior defensive line on the right side, right next to Josh Hines-Allen. And 8 of those were on third down. Buffalo went 1 of 8 on third down in that situation. So you think they're going to move him around once again. I don't think there's any question that when the Jaguars get their first pick in the draft, which is selection number 56 overall, in my mind, it has to be a defensive tackle. If not, it would be a third edge guy with the feeling, okay, maybe Walker does move inside a little bit more. But when you pay a guy $77 million guaranteed, they're not paying him to be an interior defensive lineman. I mean, that's Aaron Donald, that's Warren Sapp. There's only a few who get that. He's going to be back out the majority of the time, on the edge, on the other side of Josh Hines-Allen.
Yeah, pin back your ears and go after that quarterback. You're absolutely right. Yeah, you mentioned that, they traded away their first pick for this year's draft to be able to move up last year and get Travis Hunter, who we saw score his first career touchdown over here at Wembley Stadium back in October. We'll talk about Hunter in just a little while, but let's just look at ahead to this year's draft. And they've got that second round pick, and then they've got 3 third-round picks. Can you see them moving up to try and enter the first round and take a selection there? Can you see possibly a trading away Brian Thomas Jr.? Do you think all that trade talk is now gone out the window as far as he's concerned?
To me, it makes absolutely no sense to trade Brian Thomas Jr. You'll never get value, and he's going to make $4.9 million over the next 2 years. They just paid Jacoby Myers $20 million. I think Parker Washington is next up. I think that'll be the new contract that you see get done right after, what happened here with Travon Walker. It's going to cost about $20 million a year to keep Parker Washington. You're getting, you're getting Thomas Jr. for $4.9 million over the next 2 years. So you'll never get the value. The only way they move him is if there's something going on behind the scenes that I'm not aware of. I've talked to everyone about this, and nothing has come forward. I don't believe that is the case. Now, if a team was to blow it out of the water and say, here's T.J. Watt in the first-round pick, then okay, then obviously you make the move. But if it's not something like that, no, I do not think it happens. And, James Gladstone, who, by the way, is an absolute pleasure to listen to talk. This guy's got just a totally different way about him as far as his personality and his overall thought process. And, it's just whenever we get the chance to hear from him, it's always, I think, just completely captivating. He's transparent, but he takes you places where, frankly, football coaches and front office executives do not. He learned under Les Snead. So I think there's a real good chance that they could move one of those picks. I don't see him going into the first round, Anthony. I just don't think that's going to happen, because that would probably take a first round pick again from next year. And that just doesn't make any sense. But if they love a guy, you've got those 3 third-round picks, 81, 88, and 100. If they love a guy in the second round, I could see them packaging something and perhaps moving up them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think so as well. They've extended, or they've taken the 5th-year option on Anton Harrison. They've picked that up, who's a right tackle. And I think we saw improvements over this past season with Harrison under the Liam Coen offense as well. So it makes sense, doesn't it, at this point, to extend him for the year, take that 5th-year option, and just see what they've got there, right, at right tackle before making a decision on a contract extension moving forward.
Yeah, they got a little bit of time here to, try to decide what they want to do. One of the conversations I've been having on my show, and I think it's a storyline that is, second only to where is Travis Hunter going to play this year, which appears to be more on the defensive side, is, Anton Harrison in Oklahoma, he was a left tackle. They brought him over here, they played right tackle. You spent all this money on Walker Little, the former regime did. The new regime spent all this money, $51 million, on Cole Van Lanen. Is either one of those two set as your left tackle, or is this football team better in the long run by taking Harrison from the right side, getting him to move over to the left side? There's been no clarity to this. There's been no, we're considering it. It's just something that I've brought up because it's April. And, these are the type of things you talk about during the offseason with a team that absolutely overachieved a year ago. They outlived, I think, anyone's expectations. And now the starting point is so different, where it's, can you remain a team like this? Can there be consistency, within this football team? And to me, that's a big part of the conversation. What happens with Anton Harrison? The other side would say, no, just leave it alone. He's played right tackle for 3 years. Let him come back, play his 4th year at right tackle. We'll see what happens with the 5th-year option, if they let him play it out or if they extend him the way they just did, last week with, Travon Walker. So there's a lot of decisions they have to make, and that's an idea that I've thrown out. We'll see if it actually does happen.
An outgoing we saw was Travis Etienne. Who knew? Travis Etienne. There's a surname. He corrected everybody at his introductory press conference with the New Orleans Saints. But we saw him go out. But Chris Rodriguez has been brought in from the Commanders there. So are you comfortable with how the Jags have gone about their business so far this offseason? Like you mentioned there, they had a very promising debut season under Liam Coen last year, and he got Trevor Lawrence as well clicking, didn't he? We'd seen the Trevor Lawrence that we were hoping and expecting to see when the Jags drafted him first overall back in 2021. So, just the way that the things are developing with this Jags roster, are you pleased with how things are going?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been absolutely an A plus, and they couldn't spend this year. They had to totally rebuild the roster a year ago, and they brought in 13 free agents right out of the gate. A year ago, March, and for the most part, they really all worked. A couple of exceptions here. Diami Brown didn't have a good year. Patrick McCarry was hurt, but they've restructured his deal, so they still think he's going to be the right guard. You knew they really couldn't do a lot of things because of where they were with the salary cap. Losing Travis Achan, like him so much personally, but I've always felt that running back is a draft and plug position, or you can find guys. And all of a sudden, you look at Rodriguez, man, this guy was eighth in the NFL in yards after contact. He makes people miss. I think the one thing that was lacking with Jacksonville and perhaps with Travis Achan is 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, 3rd and 2, those short yardage running straight behind the center and guards. Not a forte for Achan. It is for Rodriguez. Bashal Tutin, I think, is on the cusp of really breaking out. So, you look at an NFL depth chart, we know it's 11 on 11 in the NFL, but depth charts are 12 and 12 because they go 3 wide receiver, 2 tight end sets. Then they have their base defense with a nickel on defense. So if you look at the 24 guys, Jacksonville's lost 4. They lost Achan, they lost Lloyd, they lost Dewey Wingard, and they lost Greg Newsome. Think of where the starting point of this football team is right now this year compared to a year ago, when you had a first-time president in Baselli, a first-time GM in Gladstone, a first-time head coach in Coen, first-time offensive coordinator in Udinski, first-time defensive coordinator in Campanella, totally new roster. Now you're only replacing 4 of your 24, and I think they're already in-house, and they have 11 draft picks coming up.
Yeah. Very promising, very exciting times, I think, for Jags fans, and exciting year for Jags fans in the UK as well, because we've got them coming over twice this season, back-to-back home games over in London. They got one at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and then one at their home from home at Wembley Stadium. Rick, you've got your ears to the ground there in Jacksonville. Have you heard any whispers of who the matchups might be for the Jags over in London later this year?
I have not. I'd be surprised if it was New England, because that happened out there recently. I honestly don't have a clue. I want to say it's going to be a divisional game. I want to make that type of guess, and it's going to be and if you guys could get Jacksonville Houston, boy, what a game that would be. But we know with the construction that's going on here, they're totally redoing the stadium. There's only 6 home games in Jacksonville this year. Then next year, they're going to be playing their home games over in Orlando for a year as they, have the completion of the stadium. So, they're going to be restricted this year as far as seats. It's going to feel a little bit like a high school football game, or maybe even a college football game. But, this is what they have to do to get things ready by September of 2028. Then when you return here to Jacksonville, I mean, it's going to be state of the art. It's going to be one of the great, entities in all of football, period. But, yeah, it's going to be pretty intriguing. They usually don't release the schedule until like May 10th, May 12th. So we got a little bit of downtime, for that. Stuff will leak, as we do know. But, no, I honestly, unfortunately, don't know who the opponent is going to be.
And then looking ahead to 2027, when the Jags are going to be playing their home games in Orlando, I mean, that does, and there's going to be the extra home game for AFC teams next year as well in 2027. That does, raise questions as to whether there'll be even more games over this side of the Atlantic for the Jags. Perhaps even maybe the Jags have a game in Dublin where they have international marketing rights, and then 2 in London. Have you heard anything, any plans looking ahead to 2027 when they're going to be away from home and away from Jacksonville?
Well, I've heard 2 schools of thought. I'm really under the impression that they're going to play internationally at least twice, maybe even a third game. I had someone close to me say, well, don't necessarily agree with that because Shad Khan had a really good meeting with the higher ups, the executives, the mayor, and everyone in Orlando, and it was an interesting deal the way that that was put together. But I also think Shad can turn around and say, well, the NFL, asked us to move, and we did. My guess would be 3 games, maybe 2 home, 1 away,
Yeah.
kind of like what they're doing this year. That would be my guess, but really nothing would surprise me. Even Jacksonville playing more games over in London next year. Again, we'll see. And the dream is that before you know it, it's going to be 18 games, and
Yep.
every single team, all 32 of them, are going to have at least one international game a year.
Roger's vision for the future, absolutely,
Yeah,
and who knows how quickly that will be when we get the 18 games. But like you say, it's coming. We
yeah,
heard the owner of the Indianapolis Colts talk about it last week at the owners
right.
meeting. It is a talking point. It's a discussion, and it's going to happen. It's inevitable whenever that is, and then we'll see. We'll see what happens and what the lay of the land is globally for the NFL. But as fans over here in the UK, we say bring it. The more NFL we get over on this side of the Atlantic, the better. I know it must be frustrating for fans over there, but the Jags, they've embraced it. I mean, Rick, we've been talking for the past decade, haven't we, you and I? And the Jags have. It was 2013 when they had their first game over at Wembley Stadium, and the Jags fans that I speak to over here who make the trip over, they fully embrace it. What do the callers on 1010XL say? What do they think of the whole setup with the Jags and London?
Well, I think they're accustomed to it now. I mean, obviously around here you don't want to lose a home game. Season
Yeah,
ticket holders and whatever, they want to be able to have as many home games as is possible. I think where you're at now is how much of a home field is it? How used to playing over there is this football team? And as I said a couple of minutes ago, I mean, they changed the roster by over 50% a year ago. So, sure, there are some who are used to it, but others not so much. I
yeah,
think also when you're playing back to back games, I know Shad Khan last week at the owners' meetings asked the NFL to have the bye week now after the 2 games in London. And if you play the first game there at Wembley, you would think that you would, the jet lag is gone, everything is gone, and that second game that you do have, you should be really in sync. And some will say, well, that's going to be an advantage for a team that's already been there for a week, compared to what the philosophy is. I mean, I remember we would come over there on Thursdays. I remember one year with Gus Bradley, we flew with the team after a game in Cincinnati, and we flew from Cincinnati and stayed out at the Grove. We were there
yeah.
for an entire week in London. So everyone's got a different thought about, when is the right time to go. Obviously, you leave right after the game, but that's the part of this that will be intriguing too, is to see how the Jags do in the second part of both games. Are they that much more ready to go, logistically speaking?
Yeah, Rick, you're busy, guys. We'll let you go very soon. But you mentioned Travis Hunter a little earlier. Of course, he was the talk of the draft last year. He's that unicorn player. He can play him both sides of the ball. We saw him score his first ever NFL touchdown at Wembley Stadium. You mentioned there that you expect him to be playing more as a cornerback later this season. Well, later this year, this season in the 2026 season. Do you think that there's going to come a point where he's just going to have to establish himself in one of those positions, or will he continue to be, that Stanley knife option for Liam Coen and the Jacksonville Jaguars, where he can play wide receiver, you can get him out there and just he can make those exceptional plays? Or do you think he'll be leaning towards more to cornerback moving forward? How do you see his role evolving with the Jags?
Well, I think it's going to flip from a year ago, the 7 games he did play with the
Yeah.
Jags. I think it's going to be more defense um, here on out, but I don't think it's going to be only defense. I think he's absolutely still going to be involved with the offense. And, if they traded Brian Thomas Jr., which we got into, and I don't think they will, then you can make the case, all right, he's that much more involved. But, I mean, they love what they have at wide receiver. They love what they have at tight end. And again, you talk about the four guys that they moved on from. One of them was Greg Newsome. So all of a sudden you plug in Travis Hunter, and there you have it. You got Caleb Ransaw, who was hurt a year ago, who can come in and be the third safety. Now that Dewey is gone, because you still have Eric Murray and you have Antonio Johnson. And then you take Ventrell Miller, and I think you draft an off-the-ball linebacker fairly early. But I really believe that there's been a lot of inaccurate statements made about Travis Hunter. And you'll hear, oh, he can't handle the wear and tear of the NFL, the bumps and bruises of the NFL. And it's like, hold on here a second. This guy got hurt in a non-contact situation at the Miller Electric Center in practice, running a route, okay? It wasn't him getting carted off the field because he took a hit. So when people say he can't handle it, they're wrong. Now, they may be right eventually, but they're not right today. And I think ego is involved. I think they're being told by so many people, this guy can't do it. He can't play both ways, that this front office and this coaching staff is, oh, yeah, watch it. Watch it. Liam Coen has said many times that he's never seen a conditioned athlete like Travis Hunter. And this guy is so infectious, man. He actually loves to practice. He's a great teammate. I think people are going to gravitate to him more. Now that he's done with being a rookie and he's heading into his second year, as we see that transition year after year after year, and he becomes more of a veteran and a leader. I think you're going to see that as well. So, yeah, I would say, my guess would be you're going to see a lot of defense this year. Maybe he's out there for 7.5 out of every 10 snaps on the defense. And, maybe a quarter, 35% of what they're going to do on offense. That's where I would take a look at, which is a real flip from a year ago.
And just finally, what do you expect from Trevor Lawrence in his second year with Liam Coen? Because I think we saw him make a big leap. Well, perhaps not a leap, but a big step moving forward in his career. I think there's a good partnership there between those two, between the head coach and quarterback.
Oh, there's no doubt. And, a lot of people fail to remember just how effective Trevor was this year with his legs. The first downs he picked up with his legs, and he wasn't taking hits, and he was taking care of the football. Maybe the best thing that Liam Coen did all year, when there were rumblings that, they weren't getting along and some foolishness, which was never believable, was when he just said, let it rip. And don't be afraid to make a mistake and go out there and play football. And Trevor responded. I mean, the second half of the season, he was a top 5 MVP candidate. So what Trevor Lawrence needs is, continuity. He needs to be familiar with this offense year after year after year after year. It changed so much with Urban, changed so much with Doug Peterson. He always had a different play caller. Now you're settled in. Grant Udinski's a whiz, and he's probably going to be a head coach in a year. But Liam Coen is going into his second year as the play caller, and that's the most important part of the growth of Trevor Lawrence. Is you're going to lose great coaches who become head coaches, and I think that that's the case for Udinski and Anthony Campanile on defense. But as long as Liam Coen remains and calls plays, I really think the potential is unlimited for Lawrence as early as this year. I mean, they improved by 9.1 points a game. They scored 27.9 points a game. And Anthony, consider this. They didn't run the ball well. They were bad on third down.
Yep.
They were not where they want to be in red zone. And the screen game is supposed to be a forte of Liam Coen. That didn't work to where most expected. Plus, Brian Thomas Jr. had a bad year. You look at all 5 of those and consider the fact that they were 13-4 and that they can improve in those areas. It's actually pretty scary to think where this offense, could end up.
Yeah, and it gives us even more reason to be excited to have the Jags over in London for 2 games later this year. So let's hope the Jags will be balling and they'll be rolling into London, get those 2 dubs and take it back to Jacksonville after their trip over to this side of the pond. Rick, we teased it at the start. You know, we told the listeners and the viewers all about your exploits on the golf course and, you know, all the wildlife encounters that you have out there in Florida. Where can people check you out on social media?
Go to Twitter or X. That's your best bet. Rick B at 1010XL. That's 1010XL. And hopefully I'll see an animal soon. I'll throw it out there.
Throw it out there just for the viewers and listeners of the Transatlantic Sports Show. And if you are listening, if you're watching it on YouTube, you would have seen Rick's details appear at the bottom of the screen. But Rick, always great to have you on, man. Look, enjoy the rest of the off season, and when there's that bit of downtime in late June, early July, soak it up, man, because once training camp comes, you're in the thick of it, dude.
No doubt. And I'll be ready. I enjoy the off season as much as in season, but man, time's flying. So it's going to be a great week, though. It really is. Fired up about this week. Appreciate it as always, Anthony. Thank you.
Hit that golf course, man.
All right. See ya.
My thanks to Rick Ballou. Make sure you check him out on social media. He is a host on 1010XL in Jacksonville. He's got plenty of great stuff, great content that he shares, including his golfing exploits as well. I mean, that guy, he knows Sawgrass inside out. We heard us talk about Augusta. So he loves his golf. He loves his Gators. I'm not talking about the college football team, the actual reptiles. There's some great stuff, great content that Rick Ballou shares. So please check him out on social media. Check us out on social media as well at TASS_UK. We are here for the long haul. We're going to be looking ahead to the draft in the coming weeks as well. We'll get a draft expert coming on the show. So make sure you follow us and hit like and subscribe so you don't miss anything here on the Transatlantic Sports Show. So until next time,